everybody. I hope everybody's doing well and got a chance to recharge a little bit this weekend after, a very tiring week last week. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all on Wednesday, considering we really just needed to, I think, hit the snooze button this past week. Moving into this week, we're thinking about futures, mediated futures, and, thinking about the ways that we conceptualize futures in relation to the notions of utopia and dystopia. So, we're thinking about this topic through the lens of Adrienne Marie Brown's piece around science fiction thinking. And, Adrienne Marie Brown is thinking through the ways that utopia, especially how it's been, traditionally defined, through various types of science fiction, through various types of religious belief and whatnot, how it can do some harm and how it can be very limiting. It limits our imagination when we consider utopia in particular ways. So, Adrienne Marie Brown is specifically thinking about how utopia can be considered, this sort of monolithic sense of goodness, or, envisioning utopia as a sort of monoculture without diversity. Everybody is, in agreement and everything is, holistically good and everybody is, on the same page about everything. And conceptualizing utopia in that way, we can already see the ways that it can be very limiting, as well as harmful, in thinking about who is kept out from the vision of utopia, who is punished, through the vision of utopia in that sense. So, we'll be thinking in this discussion a little bit about where you see those ideas of utopia, getting complicated either through media, or books that, you've been familiar with and whatnot, and thinking about how, if we consider utopia as being a kind of limiting structure to understand change and conceptualize futures through, we can also see the limitations of dystopia. So, if we conceptualize dystopia as being a space of, absolutely no hope, and being something that is holistically bad, to contrast with the notion of a utopia, that doesn't really do much good in terms of, sparking imagination and creativity and whatnot. And, I think that especially in the past year, we've seen so much conversation around, the notion of us living in, kind of dystopia with the pandemic and whatnot, and thinking about how if we conceptualize a dystopia as being this space of widespread fear, as being the space of, absolutely no hope and whatnot, how that in and of itself is limiting. So Adrienne Marie Brown is asking us to kind of push through these structures of utopia and dystopia, see them beyond, a binary, beyond, just an either or type of structure, and think about the gray areas that, the experience of, thinking about, science fiction, thinking about, different forms of creativity offer us. So when we look at the gray space that, can't be considered a utopia, can't be considered a dystopia, how that offers us so much possibility for, thinking about what social change will look like, thinking about different forms of creativity that comment on, the various social, cultural, and political dynamics that we're living in. So, we're thinking within this conversation about how imagination and what sparks imagination and creativity is so key, and the ways that, considering the world through this lens of either, it's a utopia or a dystopia, can, just box us in and not let us think beyond that. So, it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts on where you've seen the concepts of utopia and dystopia take shape, and how you've seen those ideas complicated. So thinking towards, what media you've seen that engages with those ideas, whether it's, Black Mirror, whether it's the movie Contagion or whatnot, and think about how do you see those ideas being, in the ideas of utopia and dystopia being complicated, or, where do you see gray spaces between utopia and dystopia emerging? So we'll talk more about that in the discussion board.